Welcome back, everyone. Applied behavioral analysis. It's a growing educational approach focused on increasing positive and socially acceptable behaviors for those with autism.
Crystal Henderson is here to tell us about how ABA, an acronym, is an effective treatment for autism. Welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you.
I talked to a lot of parents around our area, and they say, there's just not a lot of resources for their autistic kids. So what is ABA, and how does it help out?
So ABA is applied behavior analysis. It's the science of animal and human behavior. And within that, it's got a bunch of principles based on how we behave, and within those principles are techniques designed to improve behavior. So within that, how we all learn is through a lot of times where skills are broken down for us. So within ABA, there's a teaching, one technique is called discrete trial teaching, which is breaking skills down into very tiny parts. So it's very similar to how we learn like our ABCs. First we learn to be able to point to the letter A, and then we learn to be able to say it, and then we learn the sound of it, and then we're able to read. Well, with our kids with autism, a lot of times they need a very discrete, repetitive form of teaching, and that's where that discrete trial teaching comes in. And the basis of that is very similar as to how we learn to read and do our math. So for example, if you want to teach your child to wave or to say hi, we'd break it down and do what we call initially as a mass trial. So we would practice it repetitively, many trials, and then we would prompt them to be successful. So there's also a teaching called errorless teaching. So if we know they don't have the skill, we want to make sure we set them up right away for success. So meaning we may prompt them right away to wave, and that may be by a slight gesture or by touching their elbow or just full hand over hand, as long as they're not resisting us. So it can vary along those depending on their skill level. So for example, their developmental level, a toddler compared to an adult with autism, it can look very differently within how these techniques are used.
And you said this technique's been around for 60 years, but it has changed over the years.
Yes, back when B.F. Skinner was kind of developing some of learning, we were learning how we learn. And behavior it was a lot more punishing in the sense of, of course we don't use electric shock and things like that anymore to learn, where we set up for more positivity through prompting, meaning we know now, okay, they don't have the behavior, we have to teach it. And we want learning to be fun. So one of the first steps is that we want to make sure we pair ourselves with them, so we become the reinforcer. Because a lot of times, sometimes with kids with autism, if they don't really have any of that social awareness yet and or want that social connection yet, we have to teach it. So a lot of times they may be more motivated by tangible items such as a Lego or a car or something like that that they may always carry around, and how we want to pair ourselves with that. So they want to look at us, and they want to engage with us, and they want to come to us. So it needs to be sometimes very intensive, very repetitive, but one thing to always remember is that all of us are always capable of learning. It's just we're all at those different levels, so even with our kids with autism.
So is this something that, as a parent, I can learn and then develop these, I guess I would call them triggers for my son or daughter, so if I want them to look at me or do different things, and I can establish that with them personally? Or
so a lot of times as a board certified behavior analyst, we are specifically trained in the science of ABA and these techniques to customize them based on your child's individual strengths, needs, and differences within that. So it's important to get that professional who's trained in these techniques to utilize them the most positive and efficient and effectively. And then we also, yes, we want the parents to be involved, because on a functional level, from daily routines to all that we may need to teach our child, well, parents are the crucial component to that. And we want the parents to have the success too, just like, you want to feel successful in teaching your child how to do things and to learn. So yes, we definitely want to give them those basis of how to do that. And within that is, like you said, like with triggers and stuff, is what we call the ABCs, antecedents, behavior, consequences. So we look at what comes before the behavior, what is triggering it, and what do we need to tell someone to get them to respond. So like, come here is an antecedent, to get someone to come here. So we have to break those down and teach those directions specifically, teach that behavior by prompting it, and then reinforce the consequence for them engaging in it.
Good stuff. Stay with us. Much more of this coming up right after this short break.